Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy here with day 26 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And I'm really excited about today's stories because we're here at Clay Street School with Tom Jones, who attended here kindergarten through 6th grade. And as you know, neighborhood schools were such a huge part of Kane for so many years. So it's really fun to hear some stories and memories that Tom has of being a student here at Clay Street. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around. And we're going to come on over. Hey Tom.
Hey, how we doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
All right, well, here's your old stomping ground, Clay Street School.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. Actually, we were, the timing was right. We just had Royce Novosel walk us through the school and brought back a lot of memories. You know, in my mind, I had it pictured, you know what it was like and what I remember. And to be quite honest, it was a lot was really the same. It was neat, going through it. I had, me and Kate had met a little bit, talked a little bit about it. I tried to explain it, but to actually, see it, up close, it was pretty cool experience.
Kind of brings back some memories when you're in the space that you had spent so much time in before.
Sure, that was a significant, time in, my life, growing up there and developing, friends and relationships and, just learning about life in general.
Okay, so let's start with, you were born and raised in Kane, right?
Yep, I was born and raised in Kane. 1966, I'm class of 1984, which is actually the last year I think that the Clay Street School was in full operation. From what I understand, they did open it a little bit in 1985 because of the tornado that blew through, so I think they used it a little bit. But from 1907, it's kind of cool up there, to 1984.
Yeah, all right, so you're born in Kane. You grew up in Kane. What street did you grow up on?
I lived on Grieve Street, so as the crow flies or whatever, that's about 3.5 blocks away. So I was kind of on the end of the line of the Clay Street, group. How they did it is Welsh Street was the line of demarcation where anybody this way of Welsh Street was Clay Street, whereas the other side was Chestnut Street. Those were the Clay Street was the last of the local, schools.
The neighborhood schools.
The neighborhood schools, yeah. So it's kind of cool.
So you said Welsh Street was the divide. So
Yep.
People on this side of Welsh Street came to Clay, the other side went to Chestnut. Did you guys ever interact with kids on the other side of Welsh Street?
A little bit. I mean, we had friends through activities, Little League and so forth like that, but not as much as you think. It was kind of segregated to our own neighborhood kids, and this was kind of the stomping grounds up here. Not only I was telling Kate, not only do we go to school here, but at night after school, this would be kind of a gathering place to play kickball or kick the can, hide and seek, whatever kind of hijinks we could get ourselves into.
So who were some of the kids in your neighborhood that you went to school with?
Oh, just from in my personal grade, there's a lot of friends that I have that are just not necessarily in my grade, but in my own grade, friends that I grew up with. My buddy Dean Anderson actually lived in that house right here next door. Early on in elementary school, I was real good friends with Scott Scholl and Todd Hewlings, Bud Hunt, Dan Goldsmith, Linda Timpano from Grandma Bears. So it was quite the crew. I can't tell you exactly how many people were in our class, so to speak, but I would venture to say it was somewhere in the 20 to low 20s probably, which to my memory, Kate kind of asked what size of classes, and I would say they were relatively small. So it was nice because I always, in my mind, it was the nice cozy Clay Street as opposed to the more crowded Chestnut Street, who had the multiple first grades or multiple fourth grades and so forth. So
here at Clay Street, there was only one teacher and one class.
One teacher,
grade.
one class per grade.
For kindergarten through 6th
Kindergarten
grade.
through 6th grade. Yep.
And so you were with the same group of 20 or so people throughout every single grade here, then.
No doubt about it.
Really
like I said, that so that's why I said it was an impressionable time. These are the kids you grew up with and hung around with and so forth.
And then when you had to go to junior high, what was that like for you?
It was a little bit of an adjustment. back then there wasn't all the activities and so forth that there was now. So you didn't really interact, with them too much, other than Little League and maybe Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. So it was different. And you had asked me earlier about the Clay Street versus Chestnut, how if we did interact. One of the things I remember, it was an annual event or whatever. We always did the Clay Street versus Chestnut Street track and field, meet, and we'd have it, one year down there and one year up here, and just different events and relay races, and it was kind of like a source of pride for us when we would do well versus the big boys, sort of the crowd, so to speak.
Yeah, that's so, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay, so you have the group of kids that you live with in the neighborhood, you come to school here. Who were some of your teachers at Clay Street?
So I went, K through 6. I started out in kindergarten with Mrs. Shaw, and you were asking me earlier what my first or memory was of Clay Street, and it was Mrs. Shaw's class. They used to have these cardboard building blocks that we played in, and I don't know why. I loved them, I guess, and that was my earliest memory of Clay Street. I don't and remember a whole lot in the early grades 1, 2, 3, so to speak, but that's one thing that really sticks out in my mind.
Mrs. Shaw's kindergarten class.
Yeah.
And who were your other teachers?
We had Mrs. Sarvey was the principal, and she was also our second grade teacher. I guess in those days they multitaskers. So.
She did both.
Yes, I had Miss Castano was my first grade teacher. I say Mrs. Sarvey. I'm just trying to think right now. My third grade teacher, I can't recall. I'm sure somebody can pipe in and messages on who was the third teacher. Bob James was my fourth grade teacher. Russ Shepard, my fifth grade teacher, and Betsy Ziegler, my sixth grade teacher. I say those are the days where those ages I kind of remember most, and I have very fond memories of all of them. Bob James was a really good influence on all the kids. Awesome guy. I mean, we used to. Some of my fondest memories are, during, recess and so forth, playing, dodgeball, kickball, and so forth. Mr. James, he always participated with us, and he was the kind of guy he didn't let up on us. He especially the guys, he kind of gave it his all too, and it was a lot of fun. Those are some of my fondest memories.
Yeah, I can imagine. That always makes a difference when teachers get involved like that.
And Betsy Ziegler, my sixth grade, she was awesome too. We always. She just taught us a lot, and I always admire her, for that. She was a really good teacher. We were talking about Mr. Shepard in fifth grade. Say again, I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. But I was telling Kate about, back in the day, in the era, things, might have not been so politically correct. But Mr. Shepard, our fifth grade teacher, he was, notorious for having his paddle hanging on the wall there. And back in the day, if you screwed up or didn't do something right, you got taken out to the hall and assumed the position. And so.
And then that was very commonplace in that era, for sure, especially upper elementary school. Did all the teachers have paddles?
I remember, I know my fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teachers all had paddles, and I may have not been the most well-behaved kid, so I certainly had my run-ins with all of them. Another neat thing that I'm sure a lot of the Clay Street people will remember, as far as disciplining like that, when we screwed up, what we had to do. Maybe before we got paddled, the step prior to is in the back of the school. There's an old fire, stairwell, and we had to walk the steps. So you screwed up, you're out there, 15 minutes, walk the stairs. So that was kind of, and then they come check on you, and but
had time to think about what you did.
Time to think about what you did.
Okay, and so it was like any elementary school at that time, probably, where you were in the classroom most of the day. Had your different reading, writing, arithmetic classes. You mentioned recess. Where was recess held?
Recess was, in the springtime and fall time, we were outside as much as possible. in back of the school here, there was a big field. That was our kickball field, and that was pretty much a daily activity. And when the snow was flying, we would be downstairs in the our enormous gymnasium. Actually, it was very cozy. Would be a nice word for it. They're probably 7-foot ceilings, and I showed Kate when we walked through there. She goes, "Boy, this is smaller," and I go, "Yeah, it's smaller than you think."
Yeah.
So it was a daily game of dodgeball.
That's fun. Those are good memories. And then what would you do for lunch?
Yeah, Kate asked me that, and I'm trying to think to myself, and I go, dang. But to my best recollection, I believe we used to get bused to the high school. We were, the first ones to eat up there, and then just when we were, almost done, the older kids would come streaming in, and I remember they'd always, look at us and see what kind of food was left on the plates. There wasn't any on my plate. Some of the others, and kind of scarf it up. So that was kind of neat how they did that.
Yeah, that is really cool. And then you said in the evenings you guys would come back and play, and this was
yeah,
really
and it was all like I say, and all the kids, we'd walk to school together, we'd walk home together, we'd hang out. So it was really, there definitely was a bond that's developed. Even to this day, there's still that, Clay Street, bond. I was uptown a couple of weeks ago for, alumni weekend, and you see some of your old crew, not necessarily in my grade, but in, I think the class of '89, had their reunion or whatever, and a lot of them, friends with still.
Yeah, that's so special, and that's not something that a lot of people have. And so I think it's awesome that you have those memories and that you're willing to share them. And I'm sure there's other people that probably have more memories to share as well.
Yeah, that'd be kind of awesome, actually. After you post this up on the page, any of the old Clay Street peeps, if they want to, chime in and share a memory or something, I think that'd be really neat.
I think so too. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap up for today?
I don't believe so. Like I say, I just kind of, when you first approached me about, doing this, something like that, I was kind of, thought a little bit, and I thought the whole Clay Street experience would be neat, because it was, I think a really cool time for all the Clay Street people, and it was kind of a thing of days gone by where they don't, now, there's not the neighborhood schools anymore, so I thought it was kind of it would be neat to talk about.
Yeah, what a special bond you guys have. I love it.
Well, thanks for having me, Kate. I appreciate it.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for your time.
So
All right, everyone. That was so much fun to hear about what it was like to go to a neighborhood school. And I know many of you have that same experience, whether it was Clay Street or West Side or Central or Chestnut or whatever one I might be leaving out. So if you went to a neighborhood school, will you comment below some of your memories and experiences? I think it'd be really fun for us to all connect and hear your stories about what it was like for you. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 27.